It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
What a great way to start the week. Some people think Sunday's the end of the week, but I'm telling you, Sunday, it's the first day of the week, and it's where we come together as a church, and God sets us up with strength and courage and success. So fantastic to have you here. Now, let me start with a question. How many of you are familiar with the phrase planned obsolescence? Anyone familiar with that phrase, planned obsolescence? Some of you are like, what? Well, here's the thing. Even if you're not familiar with the phrase, if you own a household appliance, you have almost certainly bumped up against planned obsolescence. I remember a few years ago, I went to do some laundry in our house. And you know the thing about appliances? You only find out that they're not working when you need them to work. So, I was going to do some laundry, and I pushed the button, the go button on the washing machine, and guess what? No worky. This is not good. This was not the plan. So I phoned the fixer guy, like washing machine repair guy. Guy shows up, walks into our laundry. He didn't even bring his tool bag. I'm like, what? He just says to me, Mark, how long have you owned this washing machine? And I'm like, well, that's a bit of a personal question. I'm like, okay, 7 years. It's like, 7 years? Wow, that's really good. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, listen, don't even worry about trying to fix it. It's going to be cheaper for you just to get a new one. And I'm like, but I've only had it for 7 years. He goes, listen, the fact that you got more than 5 out of it, you've done really well. Because I'm like, my parents' generation, their washing machine would last 30 years, and it would typically only break because somebody did something stupid, like put a hammer inside and try to wash that. But here's the thing. If you're a consumer, then having a household appliance last you for 30 years is great, because it means you probably are only going to have to buy 2 or maybe 3 of that appliance in your entire lifetime. Great for the consumer, not so great for the manufacturer, because you're only a customer of theirs 2 or 3 times. So, let me pull the curtain back. Appliance manufacturers now operate under an unspoken rule called planned obsolescence, where things are actually manufactured or designed to fail quickly. That's why my repair guy said, how long have you had it for? 7 years. He nearly lost his toupee. 7 years. Wow. That's a miracle. And well, fine. Sure. And we walk around, my generation at least, grumbling. They don't make them like they used to. And the reality is, that's correct. They don't make them like they used to, and it's not a fluke. It's not because they can't. It's because they want you to be a customer every 5 years rather than every 30 years. And I don't say that to be cynical, but the point is, appliances these days are intentionally unreliable. Let me ask you a question. How many prefer reliable over unreliable? In every area of life. Friends who are reliable. Hello. What about this one? Cars that are reliable. When you get in at point A, you really want to arrive at point B without calling the RAC in between. Coming into summer in Perth, we want air conditioners that are reliable. We want air conditioners that will follow us around everywhere we go. However, welcome to life, where you probably have already discovered that sometimes friends will let you down. You maybe have got in the car and heard the click of death and discovered sometimes cars will let you down. Listen, your favorite sporting team will let you down. Fremantle Dockers supporters, anybody? And of course, the government will let you down. But here's the good news. We serve a God who will never let you down. We serve a God who is who he says he is and who will do what he says he will do. In other words, we serve a God who can be relied on. All right, so we're launching a series, as Louis said, called God Is, God Does. And this is this idea, very simple notion that throughout history, God, at different points, he did things, like incredible things. And in these particular points in history that we're going to drop into, he actually took the opportunity to reveal a name that he gave himself, or he described himself. And that name actually points to his nature and his character. And whilst the things we're going to look at may have happened thousands of years ago in a particular setting, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the same God that did the things that we're going to drop into over the next 4 weeks is the same God that you and I serve today. So he can be relied on to be the same God, and therefore has the same ability to do the same things that he did in people's lives in the past. So, if you've got your smartphone camera or you've got your paper Bible, you can either scan this code or pop it open to Genesis chapter 22. So this is the first book of the Bible, okay? This is going right back to right early on. While you're doing that, let me set the scene. So the key character that we're going to be dropping into is a guy named Abraham. Now, prior to the point that we'll drop into, God had actually promised to Abraham that he would become the father of many nations, which is like a remarkable promise. The problem is that Abraham and his wife were unable to bear children, which it's like father of many nations, no kids, does not compute. And in fact, the writer of Genesis uses some very simple and pointed language and says that Abraham and his wife Sarah were both, quote unquote, very old. Like some of our Elevate youth, they think that means 24. No, much older than that. And long past the age of having children. Well, God actually then appeared to Sarah, the wife, and said, no, actually, you are going to have a child this time next year. You're going to have a boy. And she laughed, incidentally, like, good one, God, because she was about 90 at the time. Hello. Well, 1 year later, God delivered on the promise just like he said he would. And they named this son Isaac, which means laughter. And in that moment, I love it. In that moment, this son was more than just a biological son. This son was a demonstration that God had turned their greatest disappointment into their greatest joy. And so every time they called him Isaac, they were reminded that God has allowed them to laugh again. Maybe some people were laughing. Can you imagine laughing at them? Can you imagine Abraham? You know, this is like Noah building an ark and it's not raining. Like Abraham, hey, God's told me I'm going to be father of many nations, but you don't have a child. And then God's like, joke's on you people, because God actually did what he said he was going to do. All right, so that's the setup. Now, after the birth of Isaac, we're going to drop into a time somewhere between 15 to 30 years later. The sort of the big brain Bible people sort of guesstimate it's in that 15 to 30 year window. In other words, by this point where we're going to drop into, Isaac is somewhere between 15 to 30 years old. All right, so that's what I'm saying. Sometime later, God, can you say this word with me? Tested Abraham's faith. Ugh, it doesn't sound fun. Abraham, God called, yes. Abraham replied, here I am. Okay, take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will show you. Now, if you're Abraham, what do you do with this? Now, first of all, God, up to this point, had repeatedly instructed, and often since, to his people, do not offer human sacrifices. So what's this about? Just on that basis alone. Secondly, God had promised Abraham he would become father of many nations. Isaac's now the ticket to ride on that promise. And thirdly, Abraham had waited 100 years for a son, and now this so-called good God wants Abraham to take him out. But the clue is in that very first line. Abraham's faith was being tested by God. And here's the reality. God will often test your faith before he opens up a door to greater opportunities to fulfill his plans and promise. Because he wants to know if you can be trusted. A faith that hasn't been tested can't necessarily be trusted. And the test was plain. Hey, Abraham, here's the test. I want you to give up the thing you value more than anything else in life, so that in doing so, you demonstrate that I am, in fact, number one in your life. Remember about 20 years ago, Louis and I were in Sydney. We were hanging out with the guys who eventually became Hillsong United, became kind of a big deal in the worship world. And at that time, they were kind of the music team of the youth and young adult ministry of Hillsong Church. Hanging out with them, one of the guys, a guy named Tim. Tim was a guitarist, songwriter for Hillsong United. And, I just asked him, what are you working on at the moment? How's it all going? He said, Mark, literally right now, I'm not working on anything. In fact, I felt God instruct me to put down my guitar for a season. No songwriting, no playing guitar. And, I asked the obvious follow-up question, why? Like, what's, because it's not evil. And Tim said to me, God has shown me that I had started placing worship as being more important than the God of worship. The act of worship, the art of worship had become more important to me. He wasn't talking about fame and fortune and celebrity. He was just talking about his own heart's priorities. So he put down the thing that had actually crept into number one spot. Amazing. And here's the thing. Abraham, wow. God delivered on the promise, gave him the son Isaac that he'd been waiting for so long. But this is a reminder, don't ever put, the promises of God are amazing. They're amazing. They're worth holding on to. They're worth celebrating when they come true. But don't ever put the promises of God ahead of the God of the promise. That's where Abraham found himself. Now, of course, Abraham wasn't sure what was actually going to happen. This sounded bonkers to him, but he had to trust that God was good and that he had a good plan for him. All right, so off they went on the third day of their journey. This is Abraham, Isaac, and some of the servants. Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance where God had instructed them to go. Said to his servants, stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will travel a little farther, and I'll say these underlined words with me. We will worship there, and then we will come right back. Let me, Bobby Brown, break it down for you. First of all, this is the first time in the entire Bible we see the word worship. And that's not me, trying to be impressive, the fact that I know that. This is me saying that in 2025, I think we've kind of distilled worship down to being like music. Like, let's worship, put on a Spotify playlist and worship, and come to church on a Sunday and we'll worship for 20 minutes. And it is that, but actually, Abraham, by doing this and declaring what he's about to do as worship, he's defining worship as being offering to God something that you value more than anything else in the world. Something that has the potential to creep ahead of God in your heart's priorities. Offer that to God as a reminder that He is number one in our life. And then there's this next thing. Come on now. We're going to go, and then we are going to come right. Now, the servants didn't know the backstory, but we've just read the backstory. We will come right back. No, Abraham, I think you missed the memo. The memo was you both will go up, and only you, Abraham, will come back. That's the instruction. That is literally all Abraham knows, or so we think, at this point in the story. But it's almost as if Abraham knew he was being tested. And he decided he was going to turn his worst time into his worship time. Hello. Because too often our worst time, we go all Eeyore. Oh, the sky's falling. Oh, things really suck. And Abraham demonstrates, I'm going to take my worst time. He's not in denial, but I'm going to turn it into my worship time. Do you know if you work in a job that you really don't like, it's like not your dream job, or you work for a boss that makes every day at work a living nightmare for you? Do you know you can take your worst day, which for you is every day, and turn it into a worship day? Where you say, listen, God, this isn't my dream job. I know that. You know that. I'm trusting that there's something better down the road for me. But while I'm here, while you've got me here, I'm going to go on assignment. I'm going to just be a difference maker. And so before you, or as you're heading into the office, where you're normally going, job sucks. Can't wait to finish. God, what are you doing to me? God, today, give me opportunities. Help me see. While I'm there, I'm there. I'm burning daylight. I'm there. I might as well turn my worst time into a worship time. God, use me in this place today. Because maybe it's a test, and maybe when you pass the test, God will then open up a door of greater opportunities for you in the future. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. So Abraham and Isaac traveled up the mountain, and as you can read this for yourself. Sometimes I read the Bible and it just makes me laugh. Abraham and Isaac were traveling up the mountain. Now Isaac, as I said, he's probably 15 to 30 years' time. He knew how sacrifices were meant to work in the Jewish culture. So he asks his old man, as they're making their way up, Dad, couldn't help but notice that we forgot to bring an animal for the sacrifice. Dad, just out of curiosity, where is the animal for the sacrifice? And Abraham's like, oh wow, awkward. Well, son. Abraham, and I quote, said, God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering. He hadn't seen it, but he trusted in God's goodness as they were making the trip up the mountain. So they got to the top of the mountain. They'd been carrying some sticks. They built an altar out of rocks. They put the sticks on, ready to light the fire, to then put the sacrifice on. Isaac, incidentally, this is bonkers. Isaac allowed his old man to tie him up and put him on the altar without any explanation. And, Abraham had brought a specific knife with him on the journey, which Isaac had assumed was for the animal that they didn't take with them. Abraham literally, in the act of raising the knife above his head, over his only son that he loved more than anything in the world, then heard the voice of an angel of the Lord say to him, do not hurt him in any way, for now I know that you fully fear God. In other words, Abraham, you passed the test. Now, can we just put on our big boy and big girl pants for a moment? Here's the truth. If you're a follower of Jesus, you will be tested. I've been tested. My leadership's been tested. My character's been tested. My faith's been tested. My generosity's been tested. And when I've been tested, it hasn't always been fun. Sometimes it's been the worst time. And in the test, my prayer is simply this: God, I just hope I pass. I haven't passed yet, obviously. I just hope. Some of the tests that I think I've passed, I may not have passed, but I'm saying, God, I really hope I did pass that. And the same is true for any follower of Jesus. But here's the great news. Anytime and every time you pass the test, you grow in faith. Amen. And you demonstrate to God again that He's number one in your life and you can be trusted with more. Now, I've been in church leadership, different roles for over 3 decades, I know, right? And I've heard people ask these sort of questions like, well, should I turn up every Sunday, or is like 2 and 4 or 3 and 5 enough? Should I serve on a team, or, it's a little bit inconvenient. Should I not serve on a team? Or should I give financially to the church? Or, sometimes money's too tight to mention. Probably maybe I shouldn't give to the church. Here's what I want you to know. If you've ever asked any of those sorts of questions, here's what I want you to know. It is way, way worse than that. Way worse. Because God wants it all. He wants 100%. Now, if you're thinking, just ran the numbers on that, Mark, 100%, give it all to God equals me 0. Hello. But actually, the great thing, and you're about to see, is that God oftentimes will give you back even more than you gave Him. And by the way, I'm not talking about money. So like, oh, great, I can't wait to get home and check the letterbox when I get home, or open up my banking app and woohoo! No, it could be. God has blessed people financially in the past. He will bless people financially in the future. But you know what? Sometimes God will give you back more of things that money can't buy. More joy, more freedom, more peace, more purpose. When we actually don't live tethered to the things that money can buy, we actually are free of those things, and into our lives God pours other things. God pours things and just surprises us because of who He is. Now, here we go. This is the moment that I've been dreading, but I'm going to tell you anyway. This is the second book I wrote in my lifetime. It's called Living Between the Trapezes. It's a book about this particular episode in history of Abraham and Isaac and the test, living between the trapezes. And it's this idea that God, using a different metaphor, often, you understand trapezes, right? God often actually, and this is the absurd bit, often asks us to let go of the first trapeze, not only before we get to grab the second one, but sometimes before we get to see if it's even on its way. And that's a real test. Now, if you think, oh, shameless plug, Mark, no wonder, you can get around on a $6,000 Vespa. I donate my books to Elevate. So a $20 purchase of a book is $20 to Elevate and $0 to Mark's Vespa fund. So there you go. But you can grab that, read it. It's a mini book. Those of you that are thinking the only book you read is Facebook, this is a mini book. You might be able to get through it. I don't know. All right, moving on. Now let's talk about names for a while. Has anybody, and now I know a lot of you, I get it, but do any of you, would you think to yourself that you were born and given a name by your parents that made life a little bit complicated for you? Like every time you phone customer service, you hear the question, can you please spell that for me, thanks? Anyone got one of those names? Yeah, all right, good. Yeah, I get it, all right. And it could be because your parents were a bit cruel, or they just didn't think things through. Either way, I don't know. But look, this week I read an article titled Baby Names Ruined by Their Unique Spelling. Now, there's one coming for you, Rod. You can maybe liquid paper out the birth certificate. Here they are real quickly. That first one is Brandon, followed by, of course, Brittany. And then, Rod, you can call your second daughter Samantha. This is not a fiction story anyway. Now, my parents made it easy for me. They called me Mark. Although, now in 2025, because people are doing dumb stuff like this, I occasionally get people asking me, is that Mark with a K or a C? And I'm like, what? Apparently I'm not alone, and I've shown you some of this before. I told them my name was Mark with a C. So that's not me. But anyway. All right, it's an oldie but a goodie. I'm not going to name the coffee shop that this photo was taken in, but it rhymes with Farlux. All right. But in Abraham's time, names were really, really important. So here we go. So Abraham looked up, and remember, he's just got the knife over. The angel said, no, don't lay a hand. Abraham looks up and saw a ram caught by the thorns in the thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of his son. And Abraham named the place, here's the name, Yahweh Jireh, which we sometimes translate as Jehovah Jireh, which means the Lord will provide. But here's something I want to double click on. Some of you church veterans, you're like, yeah, Jehovah Jireh, Lord provide, yeah, rah, got it. That name that God uniquely revealed through Abraham about himself, Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide, can also be translated the God who sees it. Or, I'll take you to Bible college for a second, can also be translated the God who sees it beforehand. And what we can learn from this revelation of God's nature and character is because God can see it beforehand, he can send it beforehand. And in this story, in this slice of history where Abraham and Isaac are going up one side of the mountain, scholars believe that God had already sent the ram up the other side of the mountain. That God's provision was already in motion, was already on the way before Abraham and Isaac even left the servants to go on their adventure as the test. And I think that might be a word for some of you today. Some of you are on this journey and it feels like you're on your own. It feels like it's taking too long. It feels like it's all uphill. You've even questioned, are you going to make it? Like, am I going to make it? And what we learn by God revealing who he is and therefore what he does is the provision that you're looking for, it's already on the way. God has seen it and he's sent it. You haven't seen it yet because you're still on the other side of the mountain. The provision, it's on its way. It's on the other side of the mountain. And you'll only see it if you continue in the test all the way to the top. Maybe you're looking for a new job. Guess what? God's already sent it. Some of you are like, Mark, that better be true. And here's a final thought, and this is the writer continuing on from this very slice. To this day, people still use that name as a proverb. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. Now, if you paid attention during English class at school, unlike Phil, then you, if you did, sorry Phil, pay attention now. You're about to learn something that you missed in school. All that money on that education, Mom. Sheesh. Demand a refund if I was you. This proverb, it appears to read incorrectly. Because what we just learned is the proverb should say, on the mountain of the Lord, it was provided. Right?
Correct, yeah.
Past tense. But that's not what people took from the lesson of Abraham's test. What they took was that the same God that could do that for Abraham is the same God that can do that for me. The same God that did that yesterday is the same God that can do that today, and the same God that can do that forever. God wasn't revealing that he was a one-trick pony. He wasn't revealing that at one point in history, he did one thing amazing for one person, and he's one and done, and he's going back to retirement. He was revealing, this is who I am. I am Jehovah Jireh. I am the Lord who will provide. Yes, I'm the Lord who has provided, and I'm the Lord who will provide. So here's a little pro tip for us to finish with today. Too often, we speak to our lack. We spend time thinking about, meditating on, speaking about the things that we lack. The things that we don't have, the not yets. And I'm not recommending denial. So yeah, I don't yet have my dream job. I don't yet have the mental peace that I'm looking for. I don't yet have the financial provision that I need for this. I don't yet have it. But here's what I do have. I have something even better. I have access to Jehovah Jireh. I have a relationship with the Lord who not just did provide, not just does provide, but will provide. I'm on this side of the mountain. I'm going up. It's not easy. This is not fun. I'm saying to God, I didn't vote for this. I'm not even sure what it's happening. I can't see the provision. I don't know when the provision is going to happen. Frustration, anybody? I don't know how the provision is going to happen. More frustration, anybody? But I trust that if this is a test and I don't quit before I get to where God's called me to go, because God's called me to go all the way to the top of the mountain, that the provision is already on the way. So your proverb and my proverb can be exactly the same as the proverb that people took from Abraham's experience and encounter with Jehovah Jireh. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.